Welcome to the Death Dive. Today, we're stepping into a ring where the title belt was maybe the least of what was at stake.
Yeah, we're doing a deep dive into the life, the fights, the struggle of Jack Johnson, the Galveston Giant.
And it was a fight he waged not just against opponents, but against the very structure of American society at the time.
To really grasp the weight of his challenge, you almost have to start near the climax. Let's go to Reno, Nevada, July 4th, 1910. The fight of the century.
Right, and this wasn't just some big sporting event. The sources we looked at, they're clear. The tension, it was palpable, like the whole country was holding its breath.
Real pressure cooker.
And here's the part that it grabs you immediately. It lays bare the cost of what he was doing. Rumors weren't just whispers, they were open talk.
That's about what?
That armed men were waiting, right there, prepared to physically punish Johnson if he won, if he dared to win.
Wow. So imagine that. You're stepping into the ring, knowing your success, your victory, could literally incite violence, could cost you your life.
That one fact, that scene, it kind of sums up Jack Johnson's whole existence, doesn't it?
It really does. His entire life was this act of defiance, a battle for dignity, for redefining who he could be in a world trying so hard to box him in.
So his journey makes you ask, what does it actually take to rise up, become a champion, when, well, the whole system seems designed for you to fail?
Exactly. And that's our mission today, right?
Yeah.
We're going to pull apart the sources, look at his rise, this Galveston Giant.
Yeah, his incredible defiant success, but also the backlash, the specific ways they tried to tear him down.
And hopefully understand the legacy, that unbreakable spirit he had. So where do we start? The beginning.
Let's do it. Galveston, Texas, 1878. That's where Johnson was born, just 13 years after emancipation?
Right into the shadow of Jim Crow America. I mean, this was an environment built on prejudice, on separation. Segregation was the law of the land.
So his dream wasn't just about being a boxer, it was bigger. A dream of possibility itself, forcing the world to see his excellence.
But those possibilities immediately walled off. The sources are full of accounts of the top white boxers, the champion.
They just refused, flat out refused to fight him.
Yeah, and you got to understand, this wasn't just, oh, he's a tough opponent. This was fear.
Fear of what? Exactly, losing.
Not just losing the belt,
Yeah.
fear of the social upheaval. The sources talk about this deep anxiety, this seismic shock a black heavyweight champion would send through society.
Because if a black man could be the best, the strongest, what did that do to the whole idea of white supremacy?
Precisely. It challenged everything. So he couldn't just climb the main ladder. He had to find another way.
The colored heavyweight circuit, that wasn't a choice, was it? It was the only path open to
It
him.
was the only game in town for him. He had to dominate this sort of separate and unequal world first, prove himself there before they'd even consider letting him challenge for the real title.
And his style, you mentioned, it wasn't just about brute force.
No, and it's fascinating how it mirrored his life. People criticized him, said he wasn't aggressive enough sometimes. He danced. He moved.
The sources called it mesmerizing, right? Like a shadow that danced beneath the blinding sun of injustice.
That's a great line. Always moving, refusing to be pinned down, controlling the pace, dictating the terms, both in the ring and outside it.
And that refusal to be pinned down, it eventually led him to the title shot, 1908. But he had to chase the champion down.
He literally did. Tracked Tommy Burns, the reigning champ, all the way to Sydney, Australia. Burns had been avoiding him.
So Boxing Day, 1908, Sydney, that's the moment.
That's the breakthrough. Johnson finally gets his chance. And back in America, people are getting the news via telegraph.
And the reaction.
Sources describe it as almost stunned disbelief.
Johnson didn't just win, he dismantled Burns, systematically.
So he becomes the first black man to hold the heavyweight championship. The biggest prize in sports, seen as like the pinnacle of masculinity.
A massive, massive cultural barrier just shattered. Right there. Okay, so he wins, barrier shattered. But that's where the real fight, in some ways, began, wasn't it? The backlash.
Oh, immediately. Because Johnson didn't just win and, go home quietly. He lived out loud.
And that success, his visibility, it was seen as, what was the phrase? Unacceptable audacity.
That's it. Unacceptable audacity. It wasn't just that he won, it was how he lived as champion. The fast cars, the flashy clothes, owning businesses.
And the relationships, marrying white women.
That was critical. It was a direct challenge to the deepest taboos of the era. His whole lifestyle screamed rejection of the subservient role society expected.
So defiant that it actually sparked this national quest, a call for a great white hope.
Yeah, and explicitly so. The novelist Jack London famously wrote about it, called for someone to restore the, quote, natural racial order.
And that someone became Jim Jeffries, the former champ, pulled out of retirement for this specific purpose.
Exactly. Jeffries, who had retired undefeated, the pressure on him, according to the sources, was just enormous. This wasn't sport anymore.
No, it was framed as this epic battle for the nation's identity, almost.
Which brings us back to Reno, July 4th, 1910. That fight. The symbolism couldn't be heavier.
Johnson's jabs weren't just punches. They were blows against prejudice. Jeffries. He was the embodiment of white supremacy.
And the result? Johnson dominated, utterly controlled the fight. In the 15th round, he battered Jeffries against the ropes until the fight was stopped.
He didn't just win, he shattered the myth.
Yeah.
Right there on the canvas. The myth of white invincibility.
And the aftermath. It wasn't celebratory, not everywhere. The sources are clear. Race riots broke out across the U.S.
Really? Because he won.
Because a black man had so decisively beaten the white hope, it led to violence, deaths, police trying to quell uprisings. The victory itself was seen as an incitement by some.
So the price of his defiance just kept going up. Even after proving himself the best, he couldn't just be...
Nope, he refused to dim his light. He opened his own nightclub, the Café de Champion, a black and tan club.
Meaning integrated.
Yeah, a rare place where black and white people could actually socialize together. Yeah. Hugely controversial then. And as we mentioned, his marriages to white women, that was seen as the ultimate transgression.
So the establishment, unable to beat him in the ring or silence him socially, they turned to the law.
They weaponized it, specifically the Mann Act. Now, this law was passed in 1910.
The same year as the Jeffries fight.
Right, and it was officially about stopping interstate sex trafficking, transporting women across state lines for immoral purposes.
Okay, so how did they twist that to go after Johnson? His relationships were consensual, weren't they? Especially his marriage to Lucille Cameron.
They were. But immoral purposes was a phrase vague enough and the racial climate toxic enough that prosecutors could argue, and juries could agree, that a black man being with a white woman was inherently immoral.
Wow, so the charge wasn't really about protecting anyone.
No, the subtext was clear. It was social control. Punishing Johnson for crossing racial lines, for challenging the order so publicly.
It basically put his life under siege, didn't it? He was convicted, sentenced to prison.
A year and a day. The pressure was immense. Johnson himself wrote about it later. My car and my house were watched day and night. I was hunted every minute of my life.
Hunted. That's a strong word.
He actually fled the country for years to avoid prison, lived in exile in Europe and South America. Eventually, he came back, surrendered, and served his time. His freedom was taken because of who he was and how he lived.
Now, the sources do add some nuance here. He wasn't a simple hero figure to everyone, was he? Even within the black community.
That's true. His flamboyance, his refusal to kind of play the game quietly.
Yeah.
It worried some black leaders. They feared the backlash he provoked could harm everyone.
It makes him more complex, more human, maybe.
Absolutely. But through it all, his message seemed pretty consistent. He famously said, "I am a man first." He just refused to be defined solely by his race or play the victim.
So his very existence, his confidence, his success,
Yeah.
it was all a form of protest.
Daily acts of protest.
Yeah.
Just by being himself unapologetically.
When you look at his life that way, he becomes more than just a boxer. He's like a living metaphor.
A metaphor for resistance,
Mm-hmm.
for possibility. Think about it. If he could beat the Great White Hope in that environment, maybe others facing different walls could also defy their limits.
It must have shifted something in people's minds, made them think differently about what was possible.
Definitely. He didn't maybe start the civil rights movement, but he was a crucial forerunner. He cracked open a door symbolically. You can draw a line from him to Joe Louis to Muhammad Ali.
Serena Williams, LeBron James.
All these athletes who followed, stepping into an arena, a public space that Johnson helped forge through sheer willpower and defiance.
His life really forces you to ask that question, doesn't it? Who built this door telling me I can't go through, and why should I wait for them to open it?
It's a story about persistence against overwhelming odds, about defining yourself when the world tries to define you.
And that fight for recognition, for justice, it continued long after he was gone. He died tragically in a car crash in 1946.
Yeah, but the injustice of that Mann Act conviction, it lingered. It wasn't until 2018, decades later.
2018, that recently.
President Trump issued a posthumous pardon. Finally, an official acknowledgement that the conviction was racially motivated, not legitimate justice.
A very late but necessary correction to the historical record. So wrapping this up, if we boiled down the key takeaway from this deep dive, what is it?
I think Johnson teaches us that courage isn't just about winning one fight. It's about the resolve. The resolve to keep fighting when, the whole world seems to be the opponent.
His victories weren't just titles. They were like sledgehammers, banging against the walls of what people thought was possible.
So maybe for anyone listening, when you face adversity, when you feel doubt, or like you're cornered by circumstances.
Remember Jack Johnson?
Yeah. Remember the guy who's told he couldn't win? And then after he won, was told he couldn't live freely.
Yeah.
His story is like a masterclass in authenticity under pressure.
And that leaves us with this final thought for you to chew on, drawing from that unbreakable spirit we've talked about. Ask yourself this.
What fight am I avoiding because I'm afraid others will tell me I can't win?
Because the world cannot define your limits? Not really, unless you let it.